Hi, my friends. We are live again today. You notice that we've been meeting a little bit later, and that's just so that I could do a few things like take classes and hopefully have some different conversations where people from around the world can join me because, time zones can get crazy. But as you know, we go live every Monday with the goal of chatting with women around the world, and we get to hear stories and we get to kind of jump into each other's story and realize that, you know what? Every single one of us matters, and we matter, and we're important right now where we are in this moment. And today I get to chat with Ainsley, who is living in New Zealand. She's lived many places around the world, and I got to be introduced to Ainsley through a friend, Michelle, who you guys all got to meet a few weeks ago via conversation. I'm so excited to chat with you, Ainsley. Thank you for being here.
Hi, no, my pleasure.
And it's early for you. You said it's 7 a.m.
Yeah, it's just gone 7 a.m. So my eyes are still
I know. But it's 7 a.m. like tomorrow. Like you're already tomorrow, right?
Yeah. So it's Tuesday. Yeah, we're way ahead of you. Yeah.
It's so funny to me. But talk about a little bit what you are. You're a photographer, a blogger. You've created documentaries, which I want to get into. But let me ask you this before I kind of dig into your story. What are some things that you're grateful for today?
Today, so at the moment I'm house sitting for my auntie and uncle who have a beautiful house on the beach. So feeling very grateful and very lucky to be here, and to be in New Zealand, where we're very lucky to have a really good prime minister, as we were just talking about, and basically no COVID at the moment. We're COVID free, which means that we are free to travel around and hug our family and just being able to do basic things like that. Really, really grateful for. And I also have lots of furry friends to look after me at the moment. So,
oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, for animals. I love. Okay. Yeah. You mentioned your prime minister, and I was joking with you because we all want to come be adopted by New Zealand.
Yeah. I think we're lucky at the moment. Yeah.
That's so funny. Tell me a little bit about what you do. I know I chatted that you're a photographer, you're a blogger, you do documentaries. Can you go into that a little bit? Describe that. Tell us why telling the story through photography, through blogging, and through documentaries?
So I think I really fell in love with photography at university. I was studying communications, and so storytelling had always sort of been what I wanted to do. And I took a photojournalism paper, fell in love with it, decided it was what I wanted to do, went traveling, started taking photos, and just putting them up on Facebook. Just thought it was a really cool thing to do. And then it wasn't until I moved to Paris that I sort of realized that I could actually make a career out of taking photos, and fell into doing a lot of like elopements and engagement shoots and a little bit of fashion, like lots of like Eiffel Tower sort of photos. And then just kept on doing travel photography as well, and was really lucky to meet a whole lot of amazing people and go to some really unique places. And storytelling just sort of became natural, I guess. Like I just wanted to share my experiences with other people and the experiences of the people that I had met along the way as well. So I started doing, a little bit more photojournalism type work as well. And that's sort of always been my main goal, is to do more of that. However, like commercially, it's quite hard to make money. So it's kind of always just going to be, or not always going to be, at the moment, it's a side sort of thing to keep me doing what I'm passionate about, I guess.
Yeah. I noticed that you've been to 40 countries. You worded on your website, and I'm looking away only because I'm reading this. It captured my attention, but you worded on your website, you've been to 40 countries. You've lived in many of them. You're extremely curious. You have a desire to explore the unknown, but you have a goal to explore the lesser known parts of society so that you can continue to create a oneness. And that caught my attention. Will you expand upon that?
So I think my sort of idea in that is that although the world is full of vastly different people and cultures and ways of living, essentially, however, we all want the same things. We all want to feel safe and protected and to be loved and to be able to live in a society that we're valued. And my idea of sort of going to places where people might have preconceived ideas about it, or about certain cultural groups where people might have pre-made judgments about them, I sort of wanted to break those down and show that essentially we're all just human beings and we all kind of want the same thing. And I think that's something that we kind of forget when we're looking at places on the other side of the world that just seem so foreign and so distant, and we hear about them on the news and we hear all these bad things. And so sort of my idea was wanting to show that there's another side to that. It's not just what you might hear about in the media.
What is one of your favorite stories that you've covered?
I don't really do stories so much in terms of like events. It's more people, I guess, and just sort of collective stories, maybe. Even just things like photographing the Pride Parade in Paris was mind-blowing for me, coming from New Zealand, which, like, we're a very small country and we do have a Pride festival. It wasn't that big of a thing probably 10 years ago when I was living in New Zealand. And then going to Paris and just seeing how many people were out there celebrating, and people from all ages and all ethnicities and all backgrounds, and just being sort of in the crowd, and people were so willing to have their photo taken, and just this total like freedom of self-expression was just this amazing vibe, and you sort of left like buzzing. It was incredible. And it's just like one of the simplest things. Like I literally just left my house and grabbed my camera and walked down the street, and you were just in this whole new world. And I think that, yeah, that's definitely one of the most, I mean, I've been to like photograph the Maasai in Tanzania, and that was obviously completely different and totally amazing, and worked with transgender people in New Zealand and all sorts of different things. But I think everyone's unique in that they're all got their own sort of story or lesson to teach you, I guess.
When you do your stories and you capture these stories, what do you find? Because you mentioned oneness. What do you think it is that makes us all one? What kind of connects all of us?
I think it is that, definitely that sort of desire to be safe, to be loved, to be have family, to protect your family, just those really basic human needs and wants that connect us all, that I think we can lose track of when we're looking at people who seem to be so different to us and we don't recognize them as human. I think is a massive problem when, again, you get those sort of media stereotypes coming through. So for me, it's sort of stripping all that back and just showing that, you know, these are people just like you, that they might look and be different on the outside, but essentially we all share the same sort of values.
What do you learn about yourself in those moments?
That's a good question. Indeed. I guess it's sort of humbling because you're not thinking about yourself. You're really sort of in the moment, and you just want to be a part of this person's life, and feel really grateful to be able to do that and to show that. And again, I think you just sort of find this ability to relate and connect to people that that are different to you. And I think, that's always, for me, that's probably one of the biggest things I take out, just feeling really lucky, actually, and realizing how lucky I am to be able to do that.
Is it an eye-opening experience at all? I'm not sure how I want to ask this, but I think success across the world looks different for different people and different cultures.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Have you learned anything about success by visiting all these different places, all these different countries? Maybe the true meaning of success, anything like that?
Yeah, and that's something that I've struggled with myself a lot, because in New Zealand, there's this thing called tall poppy syndrome, where as soon as somebody starts to be successful, other people, New Zealanders, feel the need to cut them down back to the same level as everybody else. And it's still a thing in New Zealand, that we're very humble people, and we all feel like that everybody should sort of be on the same democratic level, which in many ways is great. However, it's sort of, those measures of success in New Zealand appear to be get a good job, buy a house, get married, have kids, and advance up in your career until you can retire and buy a house by the beach. And that's generally the sort of standard measure of success that I probably won't ever reach because of my lifestyle, because my lifestyle is sort of all over the place and not necessarily financially stable enough to buy 2 houses and all that sort of stuff. So it definitely did help me reassess that success can be anything, and essentially it's actually a really internal thing. It's about how you feel, whether you've achieved the things that you wanted to achieve, whether those were buying a house or whether it was traveling to 50 countries and eating every kind of food in the world. Like, everybody's got their own sort of measure of success, and for some people it's just as simple as making sure their kids grow up to be healthy and happy, and that's okay.
I love that. Your favorite place that you've been and why?
Oh, it's a really hard question. I always end up saying 3. So I always end up going for Mexico, Italy, and Greece. But then I should also obviously say Paris, because I ended up living there for 4 years. So can't that one out either. Yeah.
Out of all those, the only place I've been is Mexico. I haven't traveled very much, which I think is pretty common for Americans. We hear, it seems like people around the world travel more. So I'm curious to know, why was Mexico one of your favorite places to go?
It just blew me away. Like, I purposely went to sort of places that weren't so touristy. So I did Oaxaca, Puebla, Mexico City. And the people were just so friendly, and I was sort of expecting to feel unsafe. And, I sort of, as I do when I travel alone, I sort of, you're always kind of on guard. And everybody was so lovely and really patient with the fact that I spoke very little Spanish. And there's just this, like, the culture is so strong there. Like, you'd walk into a mall and they'd have traditional dancing with all these women in beautiful costumes and young boys dressed up, and there'll just be this massive concert going on, like, in the middle of a mall, and then you'd go out and get like a $1 taco and a beer, and just the food. Obviously, I'm a massive foodie when I travel. Like, it's one of the main reasons why I travel, and I don't think you can beat Mexico in terms of street travel food. Like, oh, so good.
Oh, I'm all about the food. Okay, so tell me about the food then. I have to know about I love food too.
Yeah.
Tell me about the food that you ate there. What was top?
So many tacos, like literally every day tacos, because they're just everywhere and they're so cheap. So you can just go and get like a mini taco for like $1, less than that actually, I think it is. And then every region sort of has different plates that they're famous for as well.
Okay.
So in Oaxaca, they have, I think they're called tlayudas, and it's kind of like a, I guess it's almost like a calzone, probably getting it wrong. But it's basically like a giant taco, and then it's like covered in cheese and guacamole and sauces and yeah, the food there is just, everything is good. Even just like beans and rice taste amazing. The food, but
my friend Jenny from the UK is saying Christelle loves food. You guys are gonna make me hungry. Once you capture my food attention, I'm like, wait, tell me what you
yeah, so good. If you want to put on weight, I highly recommend going to Mexico.
Tell me about food in other places, Greece or France. How does it compare to?
France is amazing. Like, even if you're living on an extreme budget, you can go to the supermarket and get like a block of cheese and a fresh baguette, and you'll be very happy because it's just, everything's delicious. Same goes for the wine. You can pick up like a €3 bottle of wine and go and sit on the canal or on the sand and have an amazing time. One of my other favorite places for food, actually two other places that are also my other places to travel, are Beirut and Sri Lanka as well. So Lebanon, just, fresh hummus everywhere you go. Lots of delicious spices and everything's really fresh and really, really yummy. And then Sri Lanka, they've obviously got their Indian influence, but then they've also got their own types of curries, and they've got this really delicious dish called kotu, which is kind of like their version of pad thai, I would say. So it's like cut up roti really, really thinly and fried in spices and vegetables. And another place I put on like 4 kilos, I think, because I had that every day. So good. Yeah.
So in my secret life, I did foodie things, and I always dreamed about gathering at the table with people, sharing a meal, and just sitting there and telling stories, and kind of like what you do with your documentaries, telling stories and realizing we're more alike than different, and how something about food is so comforting and it brings us together as one. And one of my favorite moments was sitting and having a Kamayan feast. It was here in San Diego, but it was a Kamayan feast, which is a Filipino feast where you gather with people. In particular, I was with my friends. We gathered, we ate with our hands, we talked, we told stories. I was like, there's something about that. Have you experienced that in traveling and having moments with people around the world and just eating around the table?
Yeah, totally. And that reminds me a lot of, obviously, Anthony Bourdain. It was his whole message was, how food brings people together like that. And it's one of the reasons why I loved him, because I related to that so much. And especially, so when I was 16, I did a student exchange in Tunisia for a year. And I lived with a Tunisian family, and that was one of the things I looked forward to the most, was just at the end of the day, all sitting around the table together, everybody eating whatever my host mum had prepared, and she would normally spend, a couple of hours preparing the food because it was the sort of main event of the day. And during Ramadan as well, that was the thing. You wait till the sun went down and there would just be this feast, and everybody is relieved that they can finally eat. And so it's just this, like, all the families there, just this whole, it's like Christmas every day. You have this incredible feast before you, and the whole family's together. And it was definitely some of my most fondest memories of my time there were just really simple family meals like that.
The connectiveness. Have you noticed that any one nation is different than the other as far as gathering at the table, telling stories? Because it seems like that kind of is common across the board. Everyone has a way of gathering at the table, eating together, telling stories. I haven't traveled enough to actually experience it. It's a goal of mine. But have you found that that is one way that people are the same around the world?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Obviously, like each family is different and each person sort of has a different way of doing things. But in general, that is absolutely something that all around the world people do the same thing. They'll sit down and share a meal, and whether it's they eat with their hands or forks or chopsticks, or essentially it's that same sort of process of sharing something together, which is really special.
Tell me about a time where you were sitting with a family or a friend or any magical moment where someone kind of started opening up about their story. You just had that connective moment.
Oh, put me on the spot.
I want to. And I'm going to ask you, if you do a documentary, bring me, please. I want to go with you. If you do a documentary on food and storytelling around the table.
Oh gosh, there's probably so many sort of random times that I struggle to think of anything in particular. There's even been times where I've been sitting alone at a cafe or a restaurant somewhere, and the person next to me has started talking. We've started talking to each other, and sort of like ended up making lifelong friends with that person, because it's just, especially if they're also traveling as well, you end up having a travel buddy out of it. Trying to think of the meals have been. I don't know. I can think of anything specific. Yeah.
My friend Tim and Jenny are both watching and they're commenting. Jenny said, though there could be a language barrier, trying to communicate around the world. That's true.
Yeah.
But you know what? I found that it's really strange, and I don't know how to explain it, but we have a lot of people who come over to America and can't speak English. And I found that if you want to make time for someone, you are able to somehow communicate. And it might sound really strange, because I've met several people like this where they were just learning English, and I wish I knew another language. I mean, I really do. But coming to America, just learning English, not really knowing our nation, and I've met really good friends in those moments, just being willing to kind of connect with them and say, you know what, we're going to be okay. We're going to get to know each other. And somehow you are able to communicate. Does that sound strange? I mean, have you experienced that?
Oh no, definitely. Yep, definitely. I've had the same. I think again, it sort of strips it back down to that showing that we're basically essentially all got that human need, and that we're all the same in terms of, we all like good food. We all want to sit down and enjoy a nice meal, and even if you're with somebody who doesn't speak the same language as you, you're bonding over something without words. And yeah, that's definitely one of the most precious things about traveling in places where you don't speak the language, is that you can still find ways to share an experience with somebody like that.
And even in the silence, just having those shared moments, something about common humanity. We're in silence, but we're together. We're still together. We're still having community, something like that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about your goals with your photography, because that's your primary career. What are your goals now? I think I'm wrong. Is that?
Yeah. That's definitely the sort of primary career, I guess. Yep. Goals. I mean, definitely before COVID happened, I was really lucky to be paid to get commissioned to go traveling and take photos, which was dream job.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would love to get back to doing. I think the dream for most people doing documentary and travel stuff is, to be working for like National Geographic or Lonely Planet or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the stock standard dream.
Yeah.
And apart from that, it's just, I guess being able to continue telling stories and sort of creating meaningful photos. And aside from photography, I've also started writing a book as well, which yeah, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with it yet. At the moment, I think it's more of a therapeutic process than anything else. But who knows? I might publish it. I don't know.
Tell me about it. Is it about you? Is it kind of capturing your own?
So it sort of starts off as me moving to Paris as a very naive young woman from New Zealand, and just kind of follows the highs and lows of being a freelancer in a city that is quite tough to live in, and some bad relationships and all that sort of fun stuff. So,
well, that's where we met our friend Michelle. So which is what brought us together. I don't remember if I mentioned that at the beginning when we went live, but that's where you met Michelle, which is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So whenever I see beautiful friendships like that, I'm like, that's so neat.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah. So you're writing it right now. You're thinking about publishing it. What do you think you'll do from here with the book?
With the book, at the moment, it's very much still in a draft phase. So I'm still just sort of getting everything out. And then once that's done, I'll sort of assess and see how I feel about it and what I want to do with it. And in the meantime, I'm just working on, because I've got a travel blog, so working on getting stuff on there and starting to focus more on, obviously, domestic travel within New Zealand, because can't go anywhere else at the moment. So I'll be doing a few things over on there and sharing some New Zealand experiences. So hopefully when the world opens up again, you can come and check out what we've got over here.
Oh my gosh, I hope so. It's crazy because when COVID started and everyone was locked down, that was like, this is my year to travel. I'm going to travel. And suddenly, nope. Everyone's locked down. But I mean, we're all in the same boat. So, So, and you guys are in a very safe place over there. So that's so nice to hear. I have a question that I always like to end interviews with. And as you can see, I love to ask the deeper questions. I love to kind of learn about you. I like it all across the board, but also keep it casual. But as women, we're constantly learning. We're constantly learning about ourselves. And sometimes we forget that we have value right now in this moment, wherever we are, whoever's closest to us. What is your message? What message might you have for women right now?
I think mine would be just to do what makes you happy, which might sound really simple, but I think as women, we often put our happiness behind everybody else's, especially, if you're married and you have kids, or you have a family that demands sort of traditional societal expectations of you. You always feel like you have to fulfill what everybody else wants you to do or wants you to be. And I think for me, it's just stripping that back to, again, what actually makes you happy, and doing that. And even if it's something as simple as, I'm going to have a sleep in this morning. Sorry, kids, you can sort your own breakfast out. I mean, sometimes it's just the little things that I think we forget or we take for granted that we have to do for ourselves. So,
What makes you happy? What makes you happiest?
Food, as we were talking about, just food, honestly, it's something as simple as that always makes me happy. Spending time with friends, family, being able to be creative, spending time in nature. Pretty basic things, I guess, really. Not too complicated.
No, I love that. And the simple things are what kind of draw us together. Where can we find you online? where can our friends find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Ainsley About the World, which is more sort of my travel, sort of daily life page. And then there'll be 2 other pages on there as well. So one's my documentary, one's more commercial photography work.
Okay.
And otherwise, my website is ainsleyduyvestyn.com, and that again has branches of all the other random things that I do. So find everything there.
I can't wait to look at the documentaries. That captured my attention. So,
yeah, there's a few random things on there.
Thank you, Ainsley, for being with us. Jenny, Tim, thank you for chatting with us. Both Jenny and Tim are from the UK and are popping in to watch. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll be back next Monday. Ainsley, this was a privilege to chat with you. I loved hearing your heart and a little bit about your adventures as much as we could. So thank you so much for being with me today.
It's been awesome. Really nice.